Welcome to video 2 in the back series. Today we are going to talk about, on the rowing machine, exercises that you can do to help prevent or stop back pain from happening. So if you're experiencing back pain, these are some of the reasons why. You can check that out in video 1. It's in the description below and right up there. So once you kind of know what might be happening and you've checked that out, come back to this video where we're chatting about on the rower what you can do and some drills and some exercises for it. I apologize for this video taking so long to get. I still have a trailer right here taking up a lot of space, and since I want to do some more videos showing you exercises and things, I need space for that. But I want to stop using this as an excuse and get these videos out to you. So bear with me, I'm going to try and get back at it. Okay, so in that first video, one of the reasons that you could be getting to some discomfort is from overreaching at the catch. So on the rowing machine, what are some things that we can do to work on that? First, if we are at the catch and we're trying not to overreach, what I want you to do is kind of engage your core muscles and feel like you're sitting up straight, but not overarching. So I don't want you to go super straight. I want you to basically think about like your chest is up a little bit more towards above the rower, and I want you to look straight. As soon as you start to look down, we're more likely to start to round our shoulders. So if you look straight up, and it's one of the reasons that actually I row without this, so I have that down a lot, because this actually, I mean, I'm short, but if you're tall, you might be looking down to look at the screen. So if you're short and it's kind of right in front of you, that works, but I also just don't like to see the numbers. So really you want to look straight in front of you so that you are basically getting yourself more into an upright position. You can think about bringing your shoulders back and down a little bit. That's kind of over exaggerating and cues I'll give people in certain circumstances, but really try looking straight ahead and sitting up tall. That will usually stop the I'm overreaching. It is one of the ways to work on it. Then second is we talked about, I don't know the exact order, I apologize, but we talked about shooting the slide, or having our butt shoot out like this. So one of the things that we can do on the rowing machine, and I usually recommend doing about 10 to 20 of these when you jump on the rowing machine, do whichever thing you need to based on what you are doing when you're rowing. So whatever you choose to work on it, so whether it's this or what I'm going to show you throughout the rest of this video, pick it, do 10 to 20 of those, then go into your rowing. The more things that we have to pay attention to and try and do while we're rowing, if we're like, sit up tall, don't do this, don't do that, the more we think about, the harder it actually is to actually change it. So I usually recommend people to choose one thing and focus on that during your entire row. Then maybe focus on that again or choose something else for row number 2. But essentially start working on it gradually instead of thinking you have to do all of these things perfectly all at once at the same time. That's exhausting. This is already exhausting enough. We don't need to add more mental exhaustion to it. So choose one thing, but for whatever these are, do 10 to 15 of them, then choose something to work on and work on that throughout the row. Okay, so if we are shooting our slide, what I recommend is there's actually something called a pick drill and a reverse pick drill. So I believe that this one's the reverse pick drill and you don't need to be strapped in for it. But we're gonna be up at the catch and I want you to think you're sitting up tall. My arms are not gonna move. My trunk is not gonna move. The only thing that's gonna move is I'm going to, and notice I'm going really slow, I'm gonna gently push with my legs. No other thing is changing. My arms are staying the same. My head is staying the same. My trunk is not opening up. It's not bending more. It's not doing anything. It's just staying nice and neutral. The only thing that's happening is my legs and basically my knees and my ankles are bending and straightening. That is it. That right here teaches you to keep this position at your hip and to keep your arms in this position instead of this and bending more at the hip, which is the shooting the slide. So instead of that, it turns into everything just goes together. If you do 10 to 20 of these at the beginning, it will start to get the movement pattern through a little bit more. This is also one of the ways that you can work on if you lead with the shoulders. So another video we talked about kind of opening up at the hips and pushing back with like your upper back and your shoulders first like this. This is very similar. So the first thing we want to have do in our rowing stroke is just, sorry, that was a shooting the slide, is just our legs straightening. That's it. So if you work on this for that purpose as well, it helps with both of those movement pattern things that you might be doing that could be aggravating your back. So just keeping your hips at the same and just straightening and bending your legs. Now, for some people, if you have back stuff and you tend to get, like, let's say you have sciatica, or you're starting to get things down the leg, or you just have tight hamstrings, one of the things that you can actually do is, it might be really difficult for you to get into this position. This stretches the hamstring. This is a hamstring stretch. So what I recommend to kind of test that out is put that down, come back to the end, sit up nice and tall, have your legs in the foot stretcher. Do you feel this in the back of your hamstring, back here behind your leg? If you feel this right away, that's saying your hamstrings are tight and you're past, you're at their limit of what they want. So if you are doing something constantly where you are trying to basically get your hamstrings all the way as tight and as long as they can be, so we're shortening them and then we're lengthening them, we're stretching them out. If you're going to that all the time, over and over, and requiring force from your muscles, then that could really start to aggravate your hamstrings, which could go to your back. It could start to aggravate you. So if you're here and you feel it, then stay tuned, because I'm gonna show you what to do, but I wanna give people a test who are a little bit less tight. So if you're set up nice and tall, what this does is it tilts our pelvis. It gets our pelvis and our back in a little bit more of a neutral position. What I want you to do is now gently go forward. Now, if you can go forward and get to our 11 and 1 o'clock like we've chatted about, if you can go forward and get into your position that you would be in right here, so see how that translates to here? If you can get in that position and not feel hamstring tightness, fantastic. Then you're good to go. If you're feeling a stretch anywhere from here to getting into that position, then I would work on your hamstring flexibility, or if you're feeling it in your joint and your hip, you need to check out work on some hip mobility. But if we're just going with you're feeling it as a stretch or a pull down here, or even in your calf, then my recommendation to you is actually to not straighten out your knees all the way. And if you just go to any place where people are teaching you rowing, they are very against that. However, there is a certain population, for instance, if you are having these types of symptoms, that I highly recommend that you do this, because it's gonna make rowing a lot more comfortable for you and a lot less likely to aggravate you. So have your knees bend a little bit. Now, it doesn't need to be drastic like this. It doesn't need to be fully straight, but put a light bend, like you're unlocking your knees, light bend into the knee. If you're still feeling a stretch when you get here and the knees are bent this much, bend them a little bit more. I want you to go to the bend that is comfortable to the straightening that is comfortable for you. And that is going to determine based on your hamstring flexibility and your movement. So what it would look like is, as I'm rowing, I would stop there, then open at my hips, then come back. Go arms away, then in and up. Basically, my knees would never get fully straight. So then I can start, as my hamstring flexibility starts to improve, then I haven't learned kind of bad mechanics, and I've kept my good form, but I can slowly transition into let me straighten out my knees a little bit more. So that is one of my favorite alterations to do if you have tight hamstrings. So test that out. All right, so we've talked about if you're reaching at the catch, if you're leading with your shoulders, if you're shooting your butt out. Now, how do you work on if you are leaning really far back? All right, so the way to do this is, again, 10 to 15 of them when you start rowing. Take your feet out. I've got a whole video just on strapless rowing that you can check out. It's in the description below and up there. But take your feet out of the straps. Then what I want you to do, it is very important that this first rowing stroke is gentle, because I have had people fly off of this rowing machine doing this full force for their first time. And I promise that is not comfortable, it hurts. So what I recommend is just do a rowing stroke with your feet out and do some of these. What's gonna happen is when your feet are not strapped in, you cannot go as far. So this is as far as I can get with my feet outwards. And if I strap my feet in, I can go this far. I can go pretty far back when I'm strapped in because something's holding me there. It's keeping me connected to the rowing machine. But as soon as I take my feet out of that, there's no way that I can go that far because I'll lose any connection I have. The only thing holding me to here is my butt, my butt on this seat. And as I go farther back, I mean, I'm just gonna fly off. So if you are leaning too far back, try some strapless rowing. It can also be helpful for a lot of other things, but in terms of the back, that is one of the biggest ones. All right, so that concludes video 2 of our series. Next video, I'm gonna go over things off of the rowing machine. So I'll go over some exercises for strengthening muscles that will help you out in the long run off of the rowing machine to help your rowing, and some things that can help off the rowing machine, help really with the certain movements that our hip needs to have, and which is kind of hard for our body to understand because it's a movement we don't normally do. Teach so it'll reinforce it when you're on the rowing machine. I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you've got questions. Again, I'm so sorry it took so long to get this video, and happy rowing.